Hello again, friend. Are you currently a caregiver for an aging parent or loved one? If so, you will especially appreciate today's episode. If not, there's definitely something here for you too, because even though today's gal pal has an amazing story about caring for her mom at the end of her life, it's what she did with that story, that chip happening kind of experience, that's so inspiring. And when you hear a story like this with heart and humor, somehow it stirs our spirit with hope that no matter what you're going through right now, there is a beautiful flip side in the future. On today's episode, I talk with gal pal Breeda Miller, author, speaker, storyteller, and accidental caregiver, with a quick wit, a big smile, and one huge teacup. I mean, she seriously takes the phrase Cuppa Tea to a whole new level. I can't wait for you to meet her. By the way, I always ask my guests to take my quick quiz to determine their nail color persona and what their fave nail color reveals about them. It's a fun way to get to know them before we dive into our conversation. Well, you can take the What's My Nail Color Persona quiz too. You just go to livelikeyournailcolor.com/quiz. Answer 3 quick questions, and in your results, discover your specific nail color persona, your built in strengths, and how to tap into those strengths when chip happens. Again, just go to livelikeyournailcolor.com/quiz. Now, let's get talking to Breeda.
Tired of so much chip happening? Discouraged by so much downer news? Weary from chronic crisis? Don't let the chips keep you down. Welcome to the Live Like Your Nail Color podcast, where the tips of your fingers and toes are ready to inspire you to not give up and to keep creating the business, career, and life you want. In each episode, we flip the chip and let our fun nail color with that crazy fun name cheer us on to remember our strengths, embrace the power of choice, see life as an adventure, and know resilience is only a touch-up or change-up away. Get ready for a good time and a good laugh with your host, Mary Foley.
Welcome back, Live Like Your Nail Color gals. Is it Friday again already? Maybe I should call this Flip the Chip Friday, because what I find again and again, including in my own life, is that we truly can't live like our nail color. Say colors like Make Mama Happy or Gratitude is Everything. Yes, those are real nail color names, until we've been through a tough time and flipped it into something beautiful, something that frees us deep within to become more of who we were meant to be. But when we're in the middle of the chip, we're not there yet. That's why inspiring heartfelt stories of those who are on the other side of the flip are so important. They remind us of what's possible. Today's gal pal is one of those stories. Breeda Miller is an author, speaker, storyteller, and accidental caregiver. She had no training as a caregiver, no medical background. She didn't know what she didn't know. What she did know is that she loved her mom, who could no longer live on her own. So her mom moved in with Breeda's family, and for nearly 8 years, they cared for her. It was good until it wasn't. The experience led her to write several books and speak on strategies for caregivers and for preventing burnout. And then something unexpected happened. She created a one-woman show called Mrs. Kelly's Journey Home, which premiered in October 2021. Audiences laughed, shed a few tears, and gave standing ovations, because it's about the amazing human spirit of an ordinary person with an extraordinary outlook on life, who no doubt, I am sure, lived like her nail color. Breeda, welcome to the Live Like Your Nail Color podcast.
Oh, thank you so much, Mary. I'm delighted to be here.
I'm so glad you're here too. I've always enjoyed our conversations from the first time we met so many years ago at a conference, the National Speakers Association conference. And I just am so delighted of what has happened in your life, how you've created this difficult situation, this heartwarming. It was like it was both good and challenging, but you flipped it into something beautiful. And I can't wait to talk more about that and share that. But first, as I do with all my guests, at first I always ask, okay, You took the quiz of what's your nail color persona. So, what is your nail color persona and did it nail you?
Oh, well, I did take it and, it was a bit daunting. I thought, oh no, where is this going to take me? And I need to clarify because this is a toenail situation.
Oh, you can live like your toenail color for sure.
I am. And you know what's great? It's like my secret pleasure in the winter time. I know I have these absolutely gorgeous, vibrant nails and nobody sees them. Now in the summertime, they're all out there and it's all good. But my color is solid sister.
Solid sister is your persona. I love
That's
it.
my persona. Yep.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, so the description of that is someone who's like just you always can go to this person when you're falling apart, basically. All right. Or you want to celebrate something. Is that what you find is true that people interact with you a lot?
I think it is. I was really impressed as I was reading this saying, yeah, that's me. I'm there. It fit me and I embrace it wholeheartedly.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so then also to ask you if you have a go-to fave color, for your now in your case toenails.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you do you have one and did that description nail you?
It's a pinkish hue, but not delicate, flaky, girly, light pink. It's more of a vibrant, deep, not quite red, but still in the pinkish, spectrum there. So yeah, I guess I'm out there. It's bold, but it's not too much. And it's not it's a three bears color, not too soft, not too harsh, right.
Just right. So a medium pink is
There you go.
has
Yeah,
a little more red, then it might have a little more pink, or it's almost
Yeah.
like, well, I don't know, is it kind of aiming towards the red? Okay, so the funny thing about pink is it's the quintessential girly or female color. It just is. Okay. And if you're light pink to dark pink, that's kind of the medium, the range. And you're saying I'm in the middle. Well, I have found that the darker the pink, the more saturated the pink a woman likes, the chattier she is.
Hmm.
Okay.
I am so saturated. Okay. It's
You're good in the middle, but that also means that you know when to shut up and listen and ask good questions. So that's what, and that would be my experience with you. So I think it's perfect. Okay, so now that we've established that, let's get you talking because you do like to talk. I want to kind of obviously switch gears, talk about Mrs. Kelly's journey home, this one woman show. As you emerged from the COVID cocoon about a year ago, you said you took a deep breath and asked yourself a really big question, which led to the creation of this one woman show. What was that question and how come that led to writing the show?
yeah, it was a moment for sure. I asked myself the question, so there's a pandemic. So, lots of stuff in our world seem to be falling apart. What would I do if I knew I couldn't fail?
That question's been around, but man, what a great time to ask it.
And I thought about it and I thought, well, I would write the damn play and I would perform it all over the world. And it would reach people in ways that they didn't expect, not with the 2x4 over the head, but through the power of story. And that it would connect people to their families. It would help them to think about generations before them and their parents or their grandparents and where they are right now. And the bottom line is about asking myself that question and about the lessons I learned as my mother's caregiver comes down to two words: no regrets.
Mm.
And that's what's happening. And I couldn't be happier, I got to tell you.
Well, so I'm just curious then, let's say COVID didn't happen, right? Or before it did happen, was this an idea that you had and maybe you're playing with, but you put off to the side, or you just said, I don't know, it's not the right timing, or maybe you're afraid of the whole idea?
Yes.
All of the above. Okay.
when I was a youngster, I was very involved in theater, and I actually won an acting scholarship to Michigan State University. But then as I'm there and I'm learning everything and I'm loving it and doing really well, I realized um, this was not for me. That I realized that in order to be a successful actor, I would have to live a different life. And I realized I wasn't willing to pay the price to be really successful. Not that I was afraid of it or not that I didn't want to do it, but it was a conscious choice. So I put it on the back burner and then got a job at a radio station in Detroit and worked there for a long time and in a whole alphabet soup of radio and television stations. We got married, 3 kids later, all kinds of different things came about, and cared for my mom. And I went to see a coach actually because I was working part time. My mom had just passed away, and I thought, where do I go now? And she told me about being a speaker. I didn't realize it was a thing. And she told me about the National Speakers Association. And I crafted my first story. And I went to a speaker slam for the Moth Story Hour in Ann Arbor. And I performed the story for the first time. It's a competitive situation in a story slam. And I won that night, which was amazing. And from then on, things have just kind of taken off. A producer in New York heard that story, thought it was good enough to put on the Moth Story Hour on NPR, and it's aired quite a few times, and it's called Ticket to Heaven. And that was kind of the germ of the idea. I also put together when my mom was dying and in hospice, I was just sitting at her bedside, and I realized I had a choice. I could sit here and there wasn't anything I could do. I couldn't help her or do anything to help her feel better. All that was being done. But I thought, I'm the keeper of these family stories. And as the only daughter, we have all the original pictures. And my mom shared all these stories with me so many times over the years that I knew them backwards and forwards. And so I put together a digital family album because I was never a scrapbooker, and I thought, what do I have 4 brothers, and I've got it all, and what do I do? So I had things scanned, and I didn't just make it a photo album. I did a narrative, and I talked about the stories behind the pictures. So fast forward to 3 years ago, I'd been doing a lot of storytelling, a lot of speaking, and I was involved in a storytelling event in Michigan. And the producer, whom I'd never met, I met with him to talk about my story and what we're going to do. And at the end of our first meeting, he looked at me and he said, I want to say 3 words to you, which is frightening, for someone you don't know to say. And he said, one woman show. And I did a Scooby-Doo, like, what?
Yeah. Wow.
And he said, you've really got something here that I really think you could expand and it could be really good. So I parked that in my brain. And that was like 3 years ago. Then, COVID came along, and then it was just keeping my head above water with my speaking business and doing things virtually and, all that stuff. And then Brian's words just came back to me, and I thought, one woman show, what would that look like? And I called him up and I said, Brian, I've never written a play. I've done a lot of books. I've done a lot of speeches. I've done a lot of stories. I don't know. And he said, just start writing. And then once you have some semblance of a script, we'll get together, we'll do a table reading, and I'll tell you what I think. And Brian is Brian Cox, great human being. He's a tremendous amount of experience as a writer, a professional writer. He's published plays, he's written books. He's the editor of a newspaper in Detroit. So he's a really smart guy, and I respect his opinion. So anyway, the show ended up, 10 revisions, rewrites. And we did a couple of table readings and sessions with audiences to kind of get a read of what was resonating with people, what made sense. I had to just, the phrase of when you write to edit is murdering your darlings.
Oh, yeah.
Just cut, because, a 4-hour show, let's face it, nobody's bladder can withstand that, and especially mine. And so I had to cut it down, and where I'm at right now is all the things that one of the ways that I rationalize cutting it and not feeling guilty, because these are stories that are very precious to me about my mom and dad, my brothers, my kids, my family. And I felt mean, cutting them out, in
Yeah,
different,
right, right. Like you said, cutting your
yeah.
darlings, cutting off your arm, cutting off your hand. So yeah, but there's got to be some way to still use those stories.
Oh yeah, so that's where we are right now. I waited until I really had the final iteration of the script locked into my head because I'll tell you the truth, memory was my biggest challenge because a one-person show is basically a high wire and act without a net because there is no other actor on stage to give me a cue or
Yeah.
remind me, weren't you going to talk about the dog now or something?
You have to all of a sudden become another character and go,
Yeah,
"Oh,
because
honey, did you forget what you were going to say?" Absolutely. Okay,
yeah,
let's just
I
go.
play four characters. And in fact, Brian was so smart. We came up with a, emergency, in case of emergency, break glass situation
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
that could help me. Because if I have like a whiteout, just like,
Yeah,
okay,
right. It happened.
I'm deer in the headlights. I don't know what I just said. I don't know what is next because it's not chronological. And I play four different characters. Anyway,
Oh my
so
God.
so where I'm at right now though, the script is locked in. I mean, at one point my husband and I were watching television and a commercial came on and I said, yes, yes, Prevagen, that's what I need. I have to get some of that. I never did. Okay. It's a slog. The memory work was the only really
Bet.
painful part of this.
Wow.
It's 2 hours,
I was gonna say, yeah, it's like that's a long time for you
just
to
30
be
pages.
entertaining, and it's all on you,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, just 30 pages. It's all good. But
Wow.
anyway, where I'm at now is it's the book, Mrs. Kelly's Journey Home and Other Journeys. And my intent is to take these stories and I already have most of them already written. It's a matter of organizing it and doing the preface and all that stuff. And it'll be available as for sale during performances. It'll be on my website. Who knows where it'll go, but I think it'll be good. I'm excited.
Oh, that is that. You know what? Thank you for sharing that kind of expanded creative journey. A couple things I really take away from that is that 3 words or one comment from someone else can make such an impact. Um, and it was an impact because I'm hearing it first of all, Brian was very interested in what you'd already created, right? And you valued his opinion. So again, in that context where someone says, "Hey, what about this?" Fill in the blank, and you go, boom, right? And I've had that experience too, where I'm talking to someone, I'm sharing an idea, they're interested, but it's fresh to them, and so they bring something new to the table, and they say something that just for whatever reason kind of cuts through all the confusion and or all the little cloudiness around it, and you go, that's it, that's what that, yeah, oh my gosh. And so that's one thing. It's just amazing because that was said a while ago, and then um but when it did, it resonated so deeply. And
And I think it's because Brian was someone I really respect,
mhm,
and he had no skin in the game, and he
right,
wasn't just being polite. He
right.
wasn't just being nice. He wasn't a family member just saying, "Oh, you're so good," or something that I would say, "Well, you're just saying that because you love me," or I couldn't disparage it in my head because it was just an honest thought that came to him that he shared with me.
Yeah.
And he wasn't trying to sell me anything. He wasn't trying to, do anything that was not genuine. And it wasn't a big fluffy compliment of anything. It was just like, you should consider this.
Yeah, right. Well, that in of itself is encouraging so that, any woman listening right now goes, "Oh, I've had that experience. Oh, yeah, this is reminding me of something that really keeps coming back. And it somehow it keeps nudging at me, keeps inspiring me, or keeps saying, you got to do this, you got to explore it,
You got to explore it. You've got to try
Ah,
it.
you got to
And
try it because really you didn't know if that was going to work."
had no idea. And I thought, okay, I think this is good. But, that's because I know these stories and I love I love these people and I do it, but would anybody else even care? Would anybody else think this made sense to them or would be useful or would be, I guess the biggest fear I had about writing and performing a one-woman show is I didn't want it to be a vanity project. And I think you and I both have seen those.
Oh, yeah.
And they're painful. They're just painful. And people
Right.
will come out because they're your friends or because they're your family, and they'll support you because they love you. But to have total strangers pay money to see a performance, it better be good.
Well, it better be good and something in it for them, right?
Yeah.
The focus.
Yeah.
So that actually makes me think, well, who did you write? Who did you have in mind in the audience when you wrote this? And is that the audience that really showed up?
Yeah, that I think that was one of the best lessons that I learned. So when I wrote this, and you know what? Actually, when I wrote it, I was going off with lots of different, oh, that's a good story. Oh, I'll put that in. Oh, that's a good story. I'll put that in. And there was too many different angles, too many different tangents. We adopted 3 kids from South Korea. All 2 of them have special needs. About my parents and their immigration, about the stories as my mom's caregiver, stories of my journey through infertility, all kinds of stuff, right? And I thought, okay, you gotta focus, focus, focus. And it was just an amazing experience to get to that point. And tell me again where we were going.
The audience. The audience.
Yeah.
Okay. I know you can remember 2 hours of an entire show, but the question I just asked, I don't know where I was going. Actually, I'm so glad that you did that. But the audience, right? And you were just saying, you could have had. I was hearing, life has a lot of layers and a lot of stories, but which ones can you put together, and which ones why? That's kind of like, and who's listening? How can I positively impact them?
And how could they? So I honestly thought I had 2 audiences that would love this show.
Okay.
One, people who like Ireland, Irish stories, things about Ireland, they would love this. This is great because this is the first half is really all about my parents becoming Americans and, the shenanigans, literally, that ensued during that period with my brothers. And, it's funny stuff and it's true and it's authentic and it's great. And I thought people who have experience with caring for aging parents, whether they live with dementia or being family caregivers, that they would resonate with this. That this could be really helpful. And both of those things are true, but and there's a big but. I was wrong that it was limited to those folks because I've had people of every ethnic background, race, age, gender who have come up to me and said, your play, it hit me right in my heart. I get it. My parents were first generation Polish immigrants, and the stories about just their faith or about drinking or about uncooperative siblings or whatever just rang true to me. And the caregivers tell me they feel seen and they feel heard. People who were not caregivers, their eyes were opened up about what their siblings may have been going through. Because it's, I like to say, for example, when I portray my father, Tom Kelly, I play him as unfiltered as his Pall Mall cigarettes. He was a crusty curmudgeon, and I'm able to, but he also had I always thought of him as a crusty cupcake. You get that crunchy edge around the thing, but inside really soft and sweet. Most people never knew that. I did. And so I portray him. He was very funny, often not on purpose, but just he used to complain. My mom filled our house with plants and my father hated those plants. And he used to, if I can jump into Tom Kelly's voice for a moment.
Yeah, go.
Hey, this house, it's like a bloody jungle. I can't even find a place to set down a cup of tea with all the pots and leaves everywhere. They're sucking all the oxygen out of the room, Yeah. As he smokes his cigarette.
Right. They're giving oxygen to the room.
Yeah.
To be right.
So just loads of fun, and then really poignant messages. And I love doing it. I love seeing faces light up of just like, yes, I get that. And then afterwards, it's just amazing. People tell me their stories and just say, I've had, I will say this as I do an Irish accent for both my mother and my father. For an American to do an Irish accent in front of Irish people, is either really stupid or really courageous.
I was going to say it's courageous. Very.
Most Americans who attempt an Irish accent, please don't. It's really painful and it really irritates Irish people.
Okay. Good to know. Good to know.
This is no Lucky Charms Irish Spring, Hindai, like it too. None of that business is going on here. So
you got the approval that your Irish accent was on par. It hit the mark.
Well, and speaking of approval, the most important seal of approval I got was from my Auntie Betty, my mom's sister, who I was named after because her name is Bridget, and Breeda is the Irish version of Bridget, but she's always been called Betty. And she's 93. She's in great health, mentally and physically, lives on her own.
Wow.
And I went to visit her, and before I did a table reading of the script, before anybody else outside my immediate family here heard it, I said, I need to see if I've missed the boat or if I got it. And so I did the whole show. She had some tears. She laughed. She's so sweet. And at the end, she just looked at me and she said, Breeda, I don't know how you did it, but you got it just right.
And my heart would just be so swelled and want to tear up. Like, oh my gosh, I did it. I did it.
It was, if nobody else likes it, or if nobody else thinks it's legit or anything else, I'll say, you know what? Bless your heart. My Auntie Betty loved this. Okay. And that's all that matters.
That's right. That's right. Well, in fact, I love this fact. You said 4 characters. Obviously, one is your father, Tom Kelly. Paint for us a verbal picture of how that works on stage. Here's what by the way, I'm so intrigued by. Storytellers can tell a story, but you're acting out a story.
Yeah.
That's, and the video clips that are on your website, I think, really illustrate that. And that just makes it a whole nother level of engaging. Like the lean in factor is there. So just share with us, how does that work?
So, and Brian was so instrumental because he's looking at it, when I'm in it, I don't know how it looks. I don't know how it comes off. And the term that actors and directors use is, how does this read? How does the audience read this? Do they know? Because I'm not switching costumes at all. There's a couple of props I use to help just flesh out the characters, but 4 characters are me, myself, and so you're hearing how I sound. Then when I am Mary Kelly, when I am my mother, she is on stage. She occupies the right-hand side of the stage. She has her own chair and her own teacup and saucer and her space. And when she stands up, she never crosses the center line of the stage. She's always on the right side.
Okay.
So I think it helps audience members say, oh, she's over there. She's sitting in that chair. And now she has an Irish accent. Oh, she's Mary Kelly again. Okay.
Yeah.
When I am Tom Kelly. So, my entrance is I walk on the dark stage carrying a big leather suitcase. And I set it down right in the center of the stage. Mary Kelly, I am Mary walking in my head. I'm walking into Detroit Metro Airport. I've just landed and I am just absolutely overwhelmed by the size of this country and the size of this airport. I take this black velvet hat off and I have, this is a little stage trick. I have 2 push pins in the sides of the leather suitcase so that I can prop the hat on it and it doesn't fall off.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Take the hat off and I lay it on the side of the suitcase, and then I become me. And I step back near the set is very, very simple. There is the Mary Kelly chair and table. Mm-hmm. And then on the left side, there is a small kitchen table with a chair. And both areas have their own teapot. And on my table, it's a mug. And on my mom's table, it's a china cup and saucer.
Okay.
When I am my dad, in my dad's character, I stand always in the front of the stage, nearest to the audience, just on the left side of the suitcase. And when I perform the show in a regular theater with theatrical lighting, there's a spotlight that comes on me when I'm there. And I wear, in the beginning, he has this great hat that is like a tan colored felt cap. And he wears that. The other thing is my gestures when I am my dad. He smoked cigarettes. I don't think he ever used a lighter because he basically lit one cigarette from the neck,
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah.
So it was continuous, this motion. So I always have the cigarette in my hand, but I don't have an actual cigarette. I considered using a prop of a cigarette, and I thought, no. And Brian said, I really can't pull it off with just the hand gesture and,
Oh, yeah.
that kind of stuff.
That's right. It's kind of universal in a way, right?
And then the other character that I am is my mom's American neighbor, Mrs. Wilson, who really was there for my mom through most of her life. And the two of them were partners in crime. And so I got a pair of red plastic cat eye glasses, and those are perched on top of the leather suitcase. And so I stand on the right side of the leather suitcase, the very front of the stage, when I'm in character as Mrs. Wilson. And again, with a spotlight, and my voice changes. So I sound like, yeah, I remember when I first saw her at Christ the Good Shepherd Catholic Church, I recognized her. She was a little thing, and she had her hands full, 3 boys and a baby girl. And just talking about, then she goes on with essential information. But I hop back and forth between the characters pretty quickly. There's no costume change, but then that gets to, well, how did I decide what to wear? What is my costume?
Right. Kind of almost a neutral. Is that right?
Absolutely. But I didn't want it to look, I didn't want to disappear on the stage. So I wear a black V-neck sweater, thin sweater over black trousers, a pair of black, they're like tassel loafers and with a rounded toe. So they could be men's or women's. No necklace or, big earrings or anything. I wear my normal rings. And then I have this cardigan that is, it's kind of an olive green gray color, so that it isn't too feminine and it's not too masculine. So that when I am my father, when I am Tom Kelly, this really looks like the sweater he would be wearing all the time. But at the same token, when I am Mary Kelly or Mrs. Wilson or myself, it doesn't look strange for me to be wearing this cardigan because it is a woman's cardigan. So the only bad news is I performed it in a theater a couple of months ago in June that did not have good air conditioning, and between the stage
and the lights. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Sauna performance because I got 2 sweaters on.
Yeah. Whoa. Oh my gosh. Right. It's right.
Most theaters, it's not a problem because most theaters have the AC cranked up because, they almost always are colder than you'd like. And that's to keep the audience awake.
Yeah. Right. That makes sense. That makes sense. But also, if you've got an actual live stage like that, it's producing heat for the performers. So yeah, that helps the performers stay awake too. Not maybe not sweat quite as much. Well, thank you for explaining that, because now I'm even more impressed. Not only do you have to remember what everyone says for 2 hours, you have to remember where you move on stage, the accents for each character, what you may have to what you have to do. If there's small props, in a way you simplified it, but there's props nonetheless, right?
And the props help me cue me. But what's interesting is I curse the writer of the show almost every time.
Yeah, she is something, huh?
Oh, she's a bitch. And what she did was she ended so many paragraphs on the same word. So
oh no,
link to the next thing.
Right.
I end up a lot of paragraphs with the word home for lots of different reasons. And then I had to give myself other cues. So I say, oh, this is the home that leads to this story. Oh, no, this is the home that leads to blah, blah, blah. And it was so annoying to myself because I thought, why is this so hard? And I realized I did it to myself.
But your
So
mind
I'm past that.
kept coming home. That's it,
Coming
right?
home.
There's something to be said for that. Well, when you gave this performance to the first time in front of a crowd, in front of an audience, more than an audience of one, which is your Aunt Betty. Were you terracited, as my friend Kim Ely likes to say?
Yeah, yeah. But I have a secret weapon.
What's that?
And so I'm sitting backstage. So this is the other interesting thing that audiences often don't know. So the actors need to be backstage, so I have some very special music that I had performed and recorded so that the way the show begins is theater is dark and this music comes on that is kind of it's haunting, and it's ancient Irish music, and I speak off stage in this voice behind, but prior to all this, I'm by myself. I'm sitting on a chair right behind the curtain. There is a thin curtain separating me and the audience. So I can hear the audience. I can hear the buzz that's going on out there, right? But what I do, my process is I summon my parents. I summon my mom and my dad to be with me, to lift me up, to not let me fall, and to help me remember everything, and to perform this with as much honesty and integrity, and give the audiences an authentic experience, and allow myself to emotionally experience all of the things, the roller coaster of emotions that I've written, and to perform this. And I was terrified. I was more terrified about forgetting my lines than anything, because these stories they're just in my heart. I don't even feel like I'm acting. I'm basically channeling my parents. And in fact, I was rehearsing one day in the house. My husband was in the living room and I'm in the family room. And he came in and he says, Breeda, I actually thought your mother was here.
Wow. Wow.
So
Yeah.
that's really high praise. And the good news is he really loved her. So it was not like he wasn't complaining. But anyway, yeah. So I do that because then I feel that I have their presence with me, and it really helps me. It really helps me. And but yes, I was terrified, and but also the adrenaline rush is great. Oh, so here's another side note, depending on the theater. So I was really worried that I was going to be nervous. And when one is nervous, if you're me, it means you probably have to go to the bathroom.
Oh, no, you're right.
And
Oh, you
the
think you got to go to the
bathroom,
bathroom. You ever done that? And you're like a trickle and you're like, ugh.
but and I thought, okay, this is it, because I don't have any break. I don't like get off stage for
Yeah.
a minute. Somebody else is there, and I could no. I have to be good for the next hour at least. And the theater that I was in is a gorgeous theater. It's the Arthur Miller Theater at the University of Michigan.
Mm.
But the architects did not think about actors, and the bathroom is, I think, a half a mile away from backstage.
Oh, no.
There's not one anywhere near. It takes, it's a good 10 minutes, to get there. And anyway, so fortunately that was not an impediment. It was not a problem. But honestly, that was one of the things I was worried about.
Oh my gosh. Well, I want to shift a little bit because I know there are probably some women listening right now who are already caregivers or might think they will be in the future.
Mhm.
I think about that. I think about in my own situation. It's heartwarming and it's hard. It's
Yeah.
both. You want to do it, and at the same time, you're like, I have no idea actually what are all the emotions and all the situations that I'm gonna need to face. I'm just curious, what are some of the big lessons you learned that we need to know?
Well, as I said in the very beginning of our conversation, one of my North Stars was about no regrets,
Yeah,
right?
right.
And I had to forgive myself on those days because, for a while there, I was the poster child of a burned out, stressed out, exhausted caregiver. And I was short tempered. My kids often told me I needed to take a nap. And I was in the sandwich generation, which meant I had young teenagers at home at the very same time I'm caring for an aging, frail parent. So
Mm,
I'm caring for a generation on either side, and I am squeezed in the middle. No matter what I did, I felt I was letting somebody down. The
yeah.
the guilt. Oh, my kid's sports. Oh, taking my kids to something. Oh, but mom needs this. Oh, I got to be here. Oh, but I got to be there. Oh, the phone's ringing. Oh, how many more frozen dinners, can we have? You know?
Right.
Um,
Right.
so the guilt was tremendous. The other thing is that when I was short-tempered or I wasn't as patient as I wished I might have been, I had to learn to forgive myself and say, okay, you're doing the best you can on this day. Tonight, maybe you can get some sleep and you'll do better tomorrow. Um, so I think that's important. I have four brothers. I'm the only girl, so the default caregiver right here.
Yeah,
So that was
unfortunately,
hard
that happens most of the time. It's just,
most of the time. And the fact is, my brothers would try to be helpful, but they couldn't pull up my mom's pants. They
yeah,
couldn't give her a shower,
yeah, right.
And the sense of isolation. I live in a small town, but who knows what goes on in other people's homes? They may have an elderly parent living with them and they're struggling. And nobody knows it because they don't talk about it. When my kids were little, I went to like the mommy and me play group and we would talk about potty training and we would say, so are you using the pull-ups or, they doing all through the
Right.
or just little pants or, what are you doing? Do you ride with the M&Ms? How's that working? When my mom became incontinent, nobody asked me, so do you like the Depends or is that a different brand that you
Oh
use?
my
You
gosh.
know?
Right.
And
Yeah.
I didn't know this is a normal part of aging sometimes. Or, oh, what is a UTI? I did not realize that UTI can be caused by dehydration and can lead to changes in brain function. And many people think, oh my God, they have Alzheimer's, that are having delirium. And basically, it's just a UTI. And it's one of the major reasons people go to ERs. I did not know any of this stuff.
Right. Because where are the care? I don't know, you got your mommy groups is what you're saying
Yeah.
before. So how do we get the caring for mommy groups? I
Yeah,
guess.
so that's why I wrote the book
Wow.
that
Yeah.
I wish I had, because honestly, I did have a lot of books, but I was so tired. By the time I sat down to read, I would get through 2 pages and I would be sound asleep.
Well,
So,
and yeah, in fact, when we first met, I remember that you had just written the book, The Caregiver Coffee Break.
yeah,
And that's the book you're talking about, right? The
yeah.
book you wish you had had, that encouraged you to take a break.
And resources and who to ask and when to ask and what to ask, because
Yeah.
I didn't know any of those things. And but I integrate all of these scenarios into the play in the second act. And through telling it as a funny and memorable story, people learn these things and their eyes are opened. And it's been amazing to me, the responses that I've gotten from audiences about how much they've learned in just a short period of time of watching this play, that it's changed the situation for the people they're caring for and changed it for themselves. And that's the greatest thing of all, really.
Well, it's almost like for the second half, you've created a place where taking care of the mommy, groups in a way through the storytelling, process. And then of course you've written it down or you've written down these kind of practical things in your book.
Mhm.
And you have another book that you've recently done, I guess during the COVID period, called Take a Break Before You Break.
Exactly.
So
That's my motto, like
yeah,
try
it's a
to
great phrase.
I mean, don't wait till you fall apart and you're in a puddle on the floor and they have to scrape you up, because that's what happened to me.
Right. Well, and is that Take a Break Before You Break? So is that book for caregivers specifically, or is it a broader audience?
It's a broader audience. I wrote it for anyone who's in a position of caring for others. And, because here's the hard truth. Caregivers, whether you are a family caregiver, a parent, a nurse, a physician, a healthcare worker of any type, a police officer, a teacher, a social worker, anybody who cares for others, they're the worst when it comes to caring for themselves.
Yeah.
We all know what we're supposed to do. I know I'm supposed to eat right. I'm supposed to sleep. I'm supposed to get exercise. But when am I supposed to do that? I'm too tired, blah, blah, blah. It's too hard. I have to organize it. I have to get somebody else to take care of, my shift or my other thing. And, I just can't do it. Right. And so the point of take a break before you break, it's the same format. It's a little tip book. It's very easy to digest, very easy to carry around. The first half are things about your mindset to give yourself permission. Because so many times, those of us who are good at caring for others, we feel guilty. Oh, how could I go on vacation? Mom can't even get out of bed. I feel so guilty if I spend a weekend, just away by myself. Oh, I can't go for a walk by myself. I can't go to the gym. Oh no, I can't do those things because it's just not right. I would feel too guilty. Well, you know what? Let it go. Let it go. Because the thing is that if you are a wreck, you're not going to be in a good place to care for anyone else. And you're going to be resentful. You're going to be cranky. And the person in your care, they're going to feel that. And they're going to feel that they're a burden. And they're going to feel guilty. And the whole dynamic is going to be terrible and sad. And so get that in your head that you're doing this so you are going to be in a better place to be better at caring for others. It's not selfish, it's survival.
Well, I was just thinking, this book, Take a Break Before You Break, this tip book is you said anyone who cares for others. I was like, well, that'd be pretty much every woman I know, including myself, right? Because most women are parents, right? And that's one, so that there's caring for others that way.
Well, there are needy dogs too. Don't get me wrong.
Okay, and then there's the fur babies, right? And then there's many women who I know are listening, are entrepreneurs, small business owners, or clients. Many women are working in, for a business and have really responsible careers. Well, they're taking care of clients, they're taking care of customers, they're taking care of teams, they're taking care of fill in the blank, right? So that really does apply to everyone listening. I said nearly anyone, but I'm really thinking that might be an absolute. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we only have so much time left, and I could keep talking to you, Breeda. So I have a couple last questions. One is, what would you just love to see happen to Mrs. Kelly's journey home? I mean, and you had that no regrets.
Yep.
If I couldn't fail, what would I like to be true? What is the big vision?
The big vision, and you know what? I'm building it every day, and I'm so excited. So I've performed in southeastern Michigan quite a few times. We got it up on the road in May. Going up to Traverse City in September, back to Chicago in October. I don't want to say the actual dates or names, but I'm having conversations with people all over the United States, from Los Angeles to Washington, D.C. and Florida, Cleveland, New York City. My goal is not to bring the show to Broadway. However, I would not be rude if they invited me, okay? But that is not the big goal.
Had to, right?
Yeah, no, I would find a way to make it work. But there's some interest with it being on public television, which would be fabulous. My big vision is to have a national sponsor who will take care of my expenses and allow me to travel so that I can bring this to any community that needs it. And there's so much goodness in this play that it's uplifting. It talks about end of life in a way that most people don't think about it. And there's an awful lot of joy and an awful lot of love in this little show. And I really think it can help. It can touch hearts, and it helps people find the goodness, even in really, really hard times, that we can learn from these experiences, and we can have a better quality of life for ourselves and those that we love. And we can just learn to appreciate it. And in spite of it being really hard, there is goodness.
Yeah, in some ways, in the really hard times, the goodness just gets multiplied. It gets accentuated, and it means even more than when it's the easier times, So I love that. And that the timing of this couldn't be better. I mean, seriously, given what so many people are going through, whether they are a caregiver or not. Now, I want to get back to nail color again as we finish up. I mean,
the most important thing.
I always ask my guests if you could create a nail color. And this time, if you could create it in honor of Mrs. Kelly,
Got it.
inspire us to take a break. Before we break, what would that name be?
The name is Cuppa Tea, and it is a beautiful, soft caramel color. If you think of a nice, strong cup of tea with milk in it, that's the color. Because my mom believed that a cup of tea solves almost any problem in the world, can be solved by sitting down at the kitchen table with someone with a good ear, and a soft shoulder, maybe, and to have a cup of tea.
Wow. Wow. I love that. So that if we're wearing this caramel color color on our fingers or on our toes, and we
Mhm.
look at it, we can say, and we're feeling stressed. Well, we can say, I'm feeling stressed. I need a cup of tea.
Yes.
Yeah. Who can I invite? Who can I call up?
Mhm.
Or who do I know is going through something? And just call up and say, "Hey, you want to have a cup of tea?" So you can give that. Now, what's really important to me is this cup of tea or Cuppa tea, Cuppa?
Yeah,
Because I want to get it right. I'm
you
like,
gotta get, no, it's
right.
Cuppa, because that's when you walk into an Irish home, the very first thing they'll say, in fact, my mom didn't say this, but my aunties would often say, cup of tea in your hand, cup of tea in your hand, meaning she's not setting the table. You're not sitting down to like food and a cup and saucer. It's cup of tea in your hand, like the most casual, but she'll shove it at you the minute you walk in the door, and then you know you're good.
Okay. So you should say yes. Is that what
Yes,
you say? Yeah. Okay.
always say yes.
Always say yes. Always say yes. Okay. This has just been heartwarming and I've so enjoyed it. And I know that women listening too, I mean, there's so many layers to your story about putting together this story and how it has come to this. And I know this is the beginning. This is just the beginning. As much as it's been a journey for you to get here, it's boy, it's resonating. That's the thing. Things multiply because when they really touch hearts and they
Mhm.
really tap into something that's an unmet need. So Breeda, I'm excited for you. For those who want to learn more about you, to follow you, to see video clips, because I know you have some of Mrs. Kelly's journey home. What's the best way they can do that?
So if you go to my website, and that's Breeda, Breeda, BreedaMiller.com, there's a tab that's called The Show. And if you click on the show, there's some video clips, there's audience reactions, there's notes from me, that why I wrote this, and a little bit of inside scoop. I also have a newsletter that is published irregularly, and that's free. And it's completely not spammy, and your email address is safe. But if you want to know more about the show, upcoming performances, I put together. This is exciting. Next year, I'm going to take a group of people to Ireland on a tour, and we are going to visit some of the places I talk about in the play. And it'll be
Oh my gosh. That's
so
like another level.
if you ever wanted to go to Ireland and you didn't know where to go, who to go with, come with me. It will be so much
I
fun.
love
So
that. I love that. And
the trip is September 20th, 2023. And then
okay.
we're going to do a Zoom call with the tour company on September 20th of this year. And it's a wonderful tour company, very reputable. And a friend of mine went on this very same tour a few years ago, and she's married to an Irishman and has very high standards. She said it was the best experience, well organized. It's 10 days. They covered the highlights, the best stuff, and local people. And she couldn't say enough good about it. And so that was good enough for me.
I
So
love
there
it.
you
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you for that. I'm going to put all the links to this, your website, to your books. If there's a link to the trip or information about that as
go.
well, I will do that. Thank you so much. I'm excited to uh, watch this journey continue to unfold. I
Well,
really
thank you,
am.
Mary. Can I add one more thing?
Sure.
If anyone is interested in bringing Mrs. Kelly's Journey Home to your community, to your town, the way that works is if you have a great nonprofit organization that wants to do a fundraiser, then to reach out to me. And I have a strong background in fundraising, and we can figure it out about how to do this, how to serve your community, raise money for a good cause, and create this wonderful experience for anyone who really wants to find some goodness.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. We can all help, right? And we can all be,
Absolutely.
I love it. Thank you so much for your time today, for what you're doing. And please tell Ms. Kelly next time you talk to her that we love her too, okay?
Oh, I will. As she would say, God bless.
I love it. Wasn't that like so good? For today's Flip the Chip segment, I want to highlight the one question that Breeda asked herself that flipped her COVID cocoon filled with doubts and fears and confusion into the next big chapter of her life and career. That question was, what would I do if I knew I couldn't fail? It's a simple, powerful question that you've likely heard before, but the right question at the right time can be transformative. And so it was with Breeda. She said she would, quote, write the damn play and I would perform it all over the world. I would reach people in ways they didn't expect through the power of story. And so it could be with you. You know, lately I've had a lot of conversations with women who are feeling a bit lost and weary. Their businesses or career, they've made it through COVID. In fact, most had growth. They've worked hard and they're grateful. But what about the future? What's next? What will fill their tank, give them purpose, and energize them in this brave new world? When you ask the question, what would I do if I knew I couldn't fail? You are allowing yourself to dream without any other consideration. Most people never do this. They jump to why they can't dream because, well, so many things. You fill in the blank. They don't even give their dreams a chance to breathe. What if you took a few minutes to sit down with a cafe latte or a cup of tea and asked yourself that question and then wrote down any and everything that came to mind? What might that start to stir in you? Where might that lead? There's one way to find out. Do it and see what happens. It could be the beginning of flipping your chip. And my additional tip? Well, of course, let your nail color cheer you on. Put on a new color and give it the name Cuppa Tea, like Breeda suggested. That way, every time you see your fingers or toes, you're reminded that you're just a cup of tea away from dreaming and scheming your next adventure. You can make good choices to create the career, the business, and the life you want. One step, one nail color at a time. Look forward to being with you next time on the Live Like Your Nail Color podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Live Like Your Nail Color podcast. Ready to live and laugh more? Know a friend who could use some of that too? Then subscribe at livelikeyournailcolor.com or your favorite podcast app and share this episode right now with the person who popped into your mind. Together, let's flip the chip to be stronger, smarter, and happier.